I hope you guys are doing well today. I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Line TV, and welcome to the match preview of our upcoming game tomorrow against Slavia Prague in the quarter-final of the Europa League. You guys, today I'm going to be going through the press conference, giving my thoughts and opinions on what Sarri said and what Kristensen said as well. I'm going to get into the lineup prediction as well, and to end things, I'm going to be talking about our opponents, giving you guys an understanding of how they play, who their key players are, and why we have to be very careful against them tomorrow. But you guys, before I get into anything, today's video is brought to you by the One Football app. Honestly, you guys, it's the most convenient app to have. I personally feel that if you're a football fan, download it. That convenience is going to help you out so much throughout the course of the season, I'm telling you. A super efficient way to get lineup news, stats, injury news, everything you need tailored around the club or player of your choice. If you guys want to help me out, in the link in the description below, it's going to be a link to the One Football app. But getting straight into things, starting with the press conference, Sarri was asked about his thoughts and opinions on Slavia Prague having to close down some of the stand due to safety reasons. And Sarri was basically saying, number one, I wasn't even aware of this, and number two, my only focus is on the game. And that was the point that he kept reiterating throughout this entire press conference today. Sarri has a lot of respect for Slavia Prague, and he made the point that we have to respect our opponents. We have to make sure that off the ball defensively, we need to be compact, because Slavia Prague are a team that like to throw 5 or 6 guys forward every time they have a counter attack. They like to use the flanks as well. And Sarri obviously has done his homework. He must have analysed their win over Sevilla. Of course, I watched the game as well, and I feel like I've got a good understanding of what type of team Slavia Prague are going to be. So make sure you guys stay till right at the end, because of course I'm going to break down who Slavia Prague are. He was asked about the transfer ban. Again, Sarri said that it's not really his concern. He's only going to care once the game's over. His only focus is on the game tomorrow night. Of course, he was obviously going to get questioned about Danny Drinkwater, or should I say Danny Drink Driver. Oh, come on, I don't know what this guy was doing. He's got to take an L for that. But Sarri was basically saying that I can't really talk about it because it's a legal matter, and I'm only here to talk about football. But the impression I kept getting of Sarri when it came to him talking about Drinkwater today was that he was being quite protective of the player. A lot of times he kept reiterating the point that Drinkwater is a good boy and I have a good relationship with the player. But of course, Sarri had to repeat a lot of the things he's always been saying about the player and why he doesn't play. I mean, it's obvious. He doesn't suit the current style of football. As Sarri says very simplistically, he suits playing in a midfield too, because Drinkwater is better at covering spaces and behind than being someone that's going to make those runs and play very proactively. He's not that type of player. When we saw him under Conte last season, when he had to play as a box-to-box midfield player, most notably against Arsenal, it really wasn't his game. And let's be serious, I rate Drinkwater. He's a good player, but he just doesn't suit us right now. And he's one of the biggest wastes of money that we've ever spent on a player in the history of this club. There's honestly no point to him. Obviously, Drinkwater could have done something about that. Sarri confirmed that Drinkwater knew about Sarri's thoughts on the player since August. But the player decided to stay here, and I'm thinking, why would Danny do that? I mean, yeah, I can be cynical and I can just say it's solely due to the money he's earning here, which is obviously going to play a big factor. But another reason I feel why Drinkwater wants to stay is due to the squads, getting along with players here as well, and obviously playing for a club of our stature, because let's be serious, he's never going to get that opportunity again. He wants to savour it a bit before he moves on. I understand, I do get that, but I'm not expecting to see him here for next season. Sarri was asked about why Kante isn't playing in the DM position, but I can't even talk about this anymore. The most interesting comment that Sarri made was the fact that he's expecting to make 5 to 6 changes for the game tomorrow. Let's be serious, it's not really a surprise. We can kind of guess already who's going to be playing tomorrow as well. And to end Sarri's part in the press conference, he was asked about Eden Hazard, and the journalist posed a question that, does Hazard need to move on to a better team? And of course, how can the manager really answer that? I mean, he's not going to be like, yeah, we're not really a great club right now. I think it's best for Hazard to leave. Of course not. I mean, a lot of these dumb questions they ask, I don't really understand what they're hoping to hear from it. All Sarri said was, He understands that he wants to try and make us one of the best clubs in the world. And what he's implying is that, listen, Hazard knows what the ambitions are for the club right now. He either wants to be part of it or he doesn't. So it's up to him to decide. Next in line was Kristensen's turn. And of course, happy birthday to Kristensen. He said that today, the only way he celebrated his birthday so far is having a full breakfast with his friends. But he spoke about how he's enjoying his time playing in the Europa League. He said that playing in the Europa League eases the frustration of not playing week in, week out, which is obviously going to be typical because Kristensen has ambitions to be one of the best players in the world. And he wants to do it with us because later on during this press conference, he spoke about how a lot of the academy boys are coming through now. He spoke about how he's been playing with Ruben since he was 16. And he said that he feels like he's a product of the Chelsea academy. He feels like he's part of Chelsea. And I think that's fantastic to hear. A lot of us have always spoken about why we want to see young players playing for us, representing this club and this badge, because they've been here their entire lives. They know what it means to play for Chelsea. And I think that when you have that in your players, you're always going to get that mental edge that gives you that competitive advantage whenever you're playing in games. And to end things, when asked about Slavia Prague, other than saying that he's played in this stadium before, he said don't ask him anything about tactics because he doesn't really watch much football when he's not playing. And a lot of players do that. I'm not going to lie, it's always going to be a surprise for me. But, obviously, he's his own guy, he does his own thing. But moving straight into the predicted lineup part for this video, and as you guys can see the lineup beside me, of course, Kristensen should be coming back. It's looking like maybe Alonso might be playing as well. I'm hoping to see him actually, probably the first time this season. I've been wanting to see Alonso play because it gives us a good estimate that Emerson might be starting against Liverpool. And for me, the guy's form has been on point to not start Emerson against Liverpool. I'm expecting to see changes in midfield as well. I'm not going to be surprised to see Cover and Barkley coming back into the team alongside Kante, and up front, don't be surprised to see the return of Willian, Pedro, and Mr. Europa League himself, Olivier Giroud. And I'm going to sound a bit cynical, but I'm not as excited for the game tomorrow, purely down to seeing some of the personnel that will be playing, because we've seen how average a lot of these guys have been throughout the course of the season. And finally, everything's flipped on its head and things are working the other way around now. But they still have a job to do. I believe they can still do it. They have enough quality, especially for this level, to get a result. So I'm expecting this team to still fulfill their responsibilities. I want to see players doing their thing. Anyway, you guys, moving straight into the final part of this video where I break down Slavia Prague and talk the tactics for tomorrow's game. Slavia Prague's manager, Shapovsky, I think I'm saying that right, stated that they did their research by researching the games in which we were struggling in. And immediately, I thought about games such as Bournemouth, Everton and Man City. And that kind of gives you an indication of what their game plan is going to be like for tomorrow night. Now, who are some of the star players for Slavia Prague? Probably their best player right now is their midfield player, Tomáš Souček, who is a holding player. He's crucial for the team because in that sense, he's like the voice of the manager and he kickstarts a lot of their counter-attacks as well. Now, this guy is going to be familiar to a lot of you. His name is Miroslav Stok, who was once part of our youth academy. Now, for me, I think he's made a pretty decent career for himself. He's played in countries like Greece, Holland, Turkey, and now in the Czech Republic. He's small, he's got a low center of gravity, he likes to run at his man, very fast as well. And so far this season for Slavia Prague, because he's got that new role of playing behind the striker, who I'm going to be talking about in a second, his goal scoring tally has improved even more, and maybe it makes a lot more sense for him because I kind of feel like with players like Stock, after a while, they can't rely too much on their pace, so when they do play in field a bit more, that's where they can be rejuvenated. And so far the guy's having a decent season. Now moving on to their striker, Skoda, who, typical hard-working forward that leads the line, presses very well, and is a target man that looks to hold up the ball on top of that. And of course, Romanian winger, Baluța, you guys might recognize him from that SBC on FIFA right now, but he's short, he's explosive, and he really helps out their counter-attacking plan a lot. Now, when it comes to formations, they've used a variety this season. They've used a 3-5-2. They mostly use a 4-2-3-1, but they've shown to adapt when it comes to playing against the bigger teams Against Sevilla, they use a 4-3-1-2. And when it comes to what to expect for tomorrow, I'm kind of stuck between them using a 3-5-1-1 or them using a 4-3-1-2 like they did against Sevilla. Now let's try and understand how they're going to play first. Of course, they're going to be very compact. They're going to keep their shape. They're going to be very deep. But that doesn't mean that they're a defensive team. They're more of a counter-attacking team because, as Sarri said, they flood men forward. And how do they do that exactly? Well, they like to create overloads against their opposition. And by doing that, a lot of the good stuff they do comes from down the flanks. It's all about them using direct balls, which either come from their centre-backs, and expect them to make a lot of long passes out from the back to get the ball in the space behind our fullbacks, because they want to get to those dangerous wide positions as quick as possible. And there's no better way of quickening the play than a nice long ball. Now, if they use a 4-3-1-2, the reason why I'm thinking this is because, playing against us tomorrow is going to be one of the biggest games in the history of the club. And in such a momentous game, the fans already understand that they're most likely not going to win this game, but they want to see a performance to be proud of. And if Slavia Prague do use a 4-3-1-2, I can expect their forwards to be doing a lot of work. They're going to be the guys that are going to try and stretch our defensive line. They'll look to make runs in behind our fullbacks, because that way they become an outlet for the team on the counter-attack. Imagine their defender, long ball all the way to the far side on the left-hand side. Let's say Skoda's on the ball, holding off Aspilicueta. He's got the ball, he plays someone in, and that's how they're able to start their counter-attack, because once that pass is made to the guy who puts the cross in, they're going to have about 3 or 4 players in our box hoping to get on the end of it. Slavia Prague are a team that respects the nitty-gritty. They work very hard, they're industrious, and they can fulfill their manager's tactical demands for a long time because they are a fit team as well. And I kind of feel like, it might be a bit adventurous for them, but it does make sense. Moving on to why I think they could use a 3-5-1-1. Of course, Sok playing in behind Skoda. The most important benefit of using a 3-5-2 is the fact that they get to pack the midfields. And so far this season, we've struggled against teams that, keep their defensive line deeper, look to close those passing lanes, and are very deep and compact near their own goal. And I think that might be the approach that Slavia Prague are going to be using for tomorrow, because it makes the most sense with how we play. You want to make sure you have as many men covering positions as much as you can. The last thing Slavia Prague want is for us to be 2v1 against their fullbacks, because the risk of using a 4-3-1-2 is that it's a very narrow formation. And when you're playing against a team like us that like to utilize the flanks very well, you're kind of asking for trouble in that sense. Another reason why I think they might use a 3-5-2 is the fact that their star man Souček isn't going to be playing, meaning that if he was available, potentially they could use a 4-3-1-2, but when he's not there, I don't think the manager wants to be able to risk it in such a big game like playing against us. And it makes more sense for them to close the spaces and to stop us from playing in between the lines. To end things with us, all we need to do tomorrow is to make sure our mentality is on point. It needs to be on point. I don't want to see players making sloppy mistakes because they're being complacent or not taking this game seriously. I hope that isn't going to happen. I want to see players taking responsibility where it matters. I want to see players being clinical and taking their chances. And I do want to see the ball being moved quickly. And I think one area in which we could get some joy against them is down the flanks. Yeah, even if they do use a 3-5-2, I can kind of imagine it like this, Imagine either Willian or Pedro down the flanks, moving infield in the half spaces. By doing that, you allow the fullback to go 1v1. But we know that Aspi isn't going to beat his man. Instead, what this means is our wide midfield players can make a run in behind. And hopefully by the time they've received that pass, our wingers are going to be in a better, more dangerous position to cause them some damage. And I think that we need to be patient. I think that over time they'll get more tired. We got to move that ball from left to right, left to right. And to be honest, I might sound a bit crazy, but it's a game where I don't want to see us having to rely upon Hudson-Odoi or Ruben. For me, if they don't play, it gives you an understanding that they might be starting against Liverpool. And for me, the best way of beating Liverpool is by using Ruben and Hudson-Odoi. I'm sorry, guys like Willian and Pedro and Cover and that aren't going to help us beat them. But you guys, to end this video, my score prediction is going to be 2-0 to us. But anyway, you guys, that's going to be me for tonight. Please like, comment and subscribe. I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lions TV, signing out.